WWE NXT here at the Havert L Fenn Center in Fort Pierce, one of the regular stops. And right here, one of the top talents in the women's division here. It's Ember Moon. Ember Moon, thank you so much. All right, Ember, you got to explain to me the name Ember Moon. Where did the name come from? I know does it have something to do with Sailor Moon?
Not really.
Okay.
I do love Sailor Moon though. I'm a huge fan of anime. But Ember Moon basically comes from, ember is the last thing that dies in a fire, and it takes a huge amount to basically get rid of that. So, and at any time it can combust and come back to life, stronger and faster than ever. Moon, basically for me, the moon to me is ever changing. It has different phases. You see blood moon, blue moon, all sorts of different things like that.
Half moon, quarter moon, full moon.
But it's constantly changing. So Ember Moon to me means someone that's unpredictable, that constantly changes, and has a lot of passion and fire and won't die.
And that is you.
Yeah, that is me.
Ember, when you were growing up, you're from the Texas area?
Yes.
Correct?
Oh yeah.
So, were you involved in sports when you were growing up?
Of course. It's Texas. If you weren't involved in a sport, like, I don't know if you made it too far. To be honest, like football, you know, I was involved with cheerleading, soccer, softball, tennis. If you name it, I probably did it.
What got you hooked into pro wrestling?
Two different things actually. Like the very first thing, my grandfather was super into professional wrestling, and back then it was religion and wrestling. They went hand in hand. But my first experiences with wrestling was basically you either do chores or you watch wrestling. So very obviously as a kid, I'm gonna go watch some TV over here. I didn't think I really understood what was going on other than like, why are these men fighting? And yeah, but I remember seeing like Hogan and Andre and stuff like that. But later on in life, like when I started getting older and stopped going to see my grandparents as much, I actually drifted away from wrestling because it wasn't like a requirement to get out of chores. I ended up being bullied really bad in middle school. And I remember the only person that stuck up for me was a girl named Amy Rodriguez. And she was really, really, really passionate about wrestling. And she kind of reintroduced me into like the post-Attitude Era. And I remember just falling in love with it because it was a whole bunch of women and men that stood up for what they believed in. You know, they were strong, they were powerful, and that was something at that time that I wasn't. And ultimately, I fell in love with it. Like, I had role models like Rey Mysterio, you know, Victoria, Ivory, Trish, Lita, you know, The Rock, Stone Cold, Kurt Angle. I could go on and on and on. Too Cool. You know, there were so many fantastic personalities and characters that I could relate to on so many different levels. And that's ultimately where I was like, man, I really want to do this. I want to become someone that stands up for what they believe in.
For you then, it became also an outlet or a release to combat what you had been going through. So not only was it something you loved, but it was also something to help you deal with life even.
Yeah, like, I mean, I remember like every Monday and Thursday, this will show my age, popping in the VHS, just trying to set the VCR for the right timer, and always, you know, it was hit or miss if you got it that day or not because you couldn't have it on repeat. But that was the thing that I love to do, and I had soccer practice on Mondays and Thursdays, so I'd come home as soon as I get off soccer practice, and if I missed the first part, I'd rewind the VHS and go back and play that. But it became almost, you know, it was a release for me. It made me happy. You know, I feared going to school every day, but I could come home and watch wrestling, and that just put a smile on my face, and I can't express to you how much, like, I feel like it saved who I was as a person.
WWE does a lot with Be a Star, which is their anti-bullying campaign. And do you feel like, too, having this outlet for you, because so many people see WWE Network and everything, that this is something you could also help kids with? Oh
yeah, I was fortunate enough to be able to volunteer to do a Be a Star rally, I think a couple weeks ago.
Was that the YMCA?
Yeah.
Maybe up in Orlando? Right? Boys and Girls Club. Thank you. Boys and Girls Club in Orlando.
And I was so fortunate to be able to talk to these kids who, some of them had been dealing with these issues, and we gave them like a positive message and a way to combat what they're going through every day, to the point where they don't have to go, you know, to school in fear like I do. They have friends and teachers and parents, and it's awesome that they receive the message so eagerly almost. And a lot of them knew already, which is even better in my opinion. I feel like bullying was such a hardcore thing when I was a kid that there wasn't really a lot of information to stop it, if that makes sense. And Be a Star definitely offers that and gives the kids the information that they need to stop it in the tracks and be leaders and be warriors for that matter.
All right, let's go to college.
All right.
You go to college.
Oh yeah.
You got your degree,
Got my
which
degree.
is awesome. So tell us where you went to college. Where did you get your degree in?
Well, I went to college for 6 years, I believe, and I started off at Eastfield College, which is a small college in Mesquite, Texas. I ended up playing college soccer there for a year.
Scholarship?
No, I wish. But
you still played though.
Yeah, I still played NCAA soccer for a year. At that time, I switched my major every other year. Gosh, maybe more than 6 months at a time. Less than that, actually, sorry. But I started off in veterinary, then I went to kinesiology, then I went to athletic training, then I went to accounting. I was just trying to find something that fit for me. And then I actually ended up going into sports medicine for a bit. And I actually kind of fell in love with that. I got my associates at Eastfield, and then later on I moved to University of Texas at Arlington. And by this point in time, I was full-fledged into wrestling. So...
You were looking to get your pro wrestling degree then.
Well, pretty much. Like, I figured I could balance it, and it was balancing out. I'd go on the weekends here, study while we're driving 6-7 hours to whatever show we're at that time. But when I got to away from home, might I say, which was about 45 minutes away from where I lived, I basically figured out that I didn't want to go to school anymore. I'd always been like a straight A student, you know, because that was the thing to do, get an education. That's very much so a thing in Texas. If you don't play sports, you gotta get an education, you gotta get a job, and move out of my house. So that was pretty much how my parents were. And when I got out of the house, I kind of figured out what I wanted to do in life. I wanted to become a professional wrestler. And it was trying to figure out what steps I needed to take to get there. I was still going to school. I wasn't so much making the straight A's anymore when I went to UTA, but I was still really passionate about sports medicine. That was the only class that I passed. That was probably the only class I went to every day, too. So, but that's when I started traveling, and that's when I got to meet Booker T, and I met Lance Hoyt, Vance Archer, former WWE Superstar Vance Archer, and I started traveling, and then I met Rodney Mack and Jazz, and then I went up to OVW, had a match, and then that's when I started traveling a lot more, and then, well, do you know, and I'm going for Shimmer Women Athletes, and all around the world, for that matter, and it felt right. It felt so right just to do that, and it was so much fun, and it was something that wasn't so much new by that point in time. I think I've been doing it for 4 years by that point, but it felt more natural to me to do this than to go to school. And ultimately, I made the decision to stop going to school.
But you had your associate's degree.
I did.
Still.
Yeah.
So you did that. And then now it was more going to advanced wrestling school. So to speak, is what
Pretty much.
Doing. Now, Ember Moon, so what did family think about this? Because you're going to college, and obviously they want to see you get a higher degree, I would guess. So,
yes.
And then you decide, look, this is my passion, this is my love, I want to be in pro wrestling.
My parents are really successful in what they do. My mom is a respiratory therapist, and my dad is a metrologist. So
I have no idea what that is.
For years, I didn't know what it was, and I still don't think I know what it was, but he has a degree in it, and it requires working with machinery and breaking stuff and building stuff. That's about the extent I have. Someone smarter out there probably knows. But my parents were super successful. They did go to college. They did get out of the house. But when I basically made the decision to stop going to college and wrestle, it wasn't so much accepted. Because one, they were trying to figure out, wait, well, on the indies, you're making 30, 40 bucks starting out. You know, you're driving basically losing money. And it's one of those things that, at first, I don't think they really understood. They always have supported me in everything they do. I just don't think that they understood it. And I think they were angry that I did drop out of college to basically go pursue wrestling. But we came to a compromise. And it was, I worked to support my habits and myself, and I got the boot right out the door. So I did, and I learned how to be independent. And a lot of people would be like, oh, my parents didn't support me, but my parents didn't care. But they wanted me to learn a lesson. And either it's you're going to survive or you're going to fail. And if you fail, you know what the result is. You're going to go back to university. And I think I was very strong-willed in wanting to pursue this. And I was working 2 to 3 jobs at a time. You know, Monday through Friday, working, I think, at least 18 hours every day. And then getting off there, recuperating. I would get off a little earlier on Fridays, then drive straight to whatever show I needed to go to. You know, or if I had a flight, I'd be like, hey, let me work a continuous like 21 hours, and then I would hop on the first plane to wherever I needed to be.
That's how much you wanted this.
Yeah. I mean, I was dedicated to it, and by that time I had an apartment, which at that time they were $400 a month, guys. Texas is cheap. Really cheap. They were way more now. But at that time they were $400 a month for an efficiency, and that's what I was living in, and I think it was like 400 square foot space. But this is what I wanted to do, and I was really passionate about fighting for what I wanted to do. And plus, I don't like to be wrong. And Dad was very much so ready to be like, I told you so, right when I like knocked on the door. Oh, so are you done with it? No? Okay, cool. Yeah, how's that going? Is it going great? But I remember them accepting it.
I'm sure, yeah. Then they were proud, obviously,
I remember
to see that you didn't
Exactly.
give up and you went for something and achieved it.
Yeah, and they were super, super happy that I did stick with it. Not before I got here, let me put it that way. Like, they're extremely proud now and want to come to every show. But before then, they realized that it was something that I wasn't giving up. I think about year 5 for me. You know, I've been doing this, it'll be 11 years in April. Year 5, they were finally like, wow, she's not going to quit. Wow, she's, all right, cool, let's go support her, let's go do this. And then it became, I guess, like, I don't know the word to describe it, but it became like a unit. This is what we're going to do. And
this is like, now, hey.
And what do we need to do to get you where you want to be?
Right. We know you're serious about this. We see you're dedicated.
Yep.
You're giving your all to this. If you need us to do something, hey, we'll do it, because we know this isn't just, oh, I'm just going on the weekends and running around and doing this stuff. So
it was great.
how about this? So we talked a little about college, and we're talking a little bit about wrestling, sports, entertainment. Well, you guys were just at college for pro wrestling, sports, entertainment. So how about that? We're bridging it all together. You guys were at UCF in Orlando, not far from the Performance Center at the venue.
Yeah.
What was that like for you? That's only the second time they've been there. Actually, first time at the venue, second time at UCF.
Yep.
You're a part of this, another special show. What was that like to be involved there and with that?
I remember the first time we got to do UCF, and the crowd was just ecstatic and electric, and they were just roaring every single time. And I remember the first time I wasn't on the card, and I wasn't wrestling that night, and I was so upset because they were so awesome, they were so rowdy. And then I just remember being like, you know what, I'm gonna be on the second one. I'm gonna be on the second. I have to be on the second one. I'm gonna fight, punch, scratch, claw. If I have to trip someone down the hallway to get there, I'll do it. And I did. And the crowd.
No way, you didn't trip anybody though.
I didn't trip anyone per se, but if I needed to, I would have. Maybe not. But I managed to be able to have the privilege to wrestle in front of that crowd, and it meant so much more because I earned it. And they were absolutely fantastic. It's one of the best crowds that we have in Florida. I don't have words to describe it. Anytime I get to perform in front of people, it's great. Sometimes you have the nerves and the anxiety because you're so just like pumped to go out there, and that's exactly what this time was at UCF.
Ember Moon, you're a gamer. Game of Thrones, Dungeons and Dragons, just what got you into all that, and just what things are you doing today?
We always had video game systems in the house, but I think once I started into high school, I really loved medieval times, and not only just the thought process of that there could be goblins and there could be witches hanging around the corner. It was fun. I actually didn't get to D&D until after I started wrestling. A friend of mine got me into it, and I never knew such imagination existed, and I absolutely loved it. Game of Thrones, very obviously. Anything in medieval times, I'm down for. Like, even video game wise, like Fable and Kingdoms of Alamar, which is a game that's based in medieval times, written by Ari Salvatore. And then Skyrim. Any type of medieval sword swinging, dragon slaying type situation, I am in, and I am down for it.
Is that also part of your persona?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to think that I am who I present to you guys. And for me, I am a dragon slayer. I am half vampire, half werewolf, half druidess. Whatever you need me to be, whatever you think I am, I am. I am the war goddess of NXT.
Ember, you're going to be involved in some capacity when WrestleMania week happens in Orlando, which is right in the backyard. So whether it's NXT TakeOver Orlando, hopefully, at the Fenn Center on Saturday, April 1st, or if it's part of Fan Access, which will be at the Orange County Convention Center, what are your thoughts of past WrestleManias, if you were involved last year in your home state in Texas, and then this year in Orlando?
Last year, I was actually injured at that time. I had bruised a bone, torn a couple ligaments in my wrist, and I wasn't able to travel at that time. So this is technically my first WrestleMania with WWE that I'm actually going to get to go to. And it's right in my backyard, so we might as well call this my hometown too. You know, we can call
So if you couldn't be in hometown last year, at least this year you get to.
We're going to call it home. I live here, you know? Like, so we can bill me from Dallas / Orlando, Florida. Like, we can just say that all, right?
Yes.
But it's in our home. This is our territory. And of course, we are all, not only myself, we are all going to bring everything, put every ounce of blood, sweat, tears, trip people down the hall if we have to, but we're going to put it all on the line for the WWE Universe. We have to. And that's exactly what we do every night. But I think it's more special for me because this is my first Mania. This is my first opportunity to show everyone coming to access to the Performance Center for all access there as well. And then Mania and TakeOver, this is my opportunity to show them what I can really do and prove how special I am to the WWE Universe.
All right, so last thing. Well, obviously we'll get your social media in, but also the WWE Performance Center. And
Yeah.
you've been around, you've been a lot of places, a lot of shows and all like that. And then you end up in the Performance Center, state of the art, and all these coaches and trainers. And you've had some good ones. You mentioned Lance, also Booker, and also General Skandar Akbar is another one that really got you going. But what can you say about the coaches and trainers at the Performance Center?
What can I say? Every coach puts all of their hard work. Each one of them are superbly experienced in aspects. We have Sarah Amato, who has by far been the best women's coach that we've ever had. At one point in time, we had Sarah Stock, who is hugely experienced in that. Now we have Johnny Saint, we have Coach Matt Bloom, Albert, you know, we have Scotty Too Hottie. We have so many amazing coaches that have the experience and the knowledge to give us what we need to succeed. The Performance Center is state-of-the-art. We have trainers and a doctor on staff now to help injury prevention. And if something does go wrong, boom, they're right there. I've never been anywhere where that's been able to happen. And not only that, we have a billion rings. We have rooms to help us learn how to talk. We have classes on absolutely everything. It's the most amazing thing I've ever been a part of, and I'm so privileged to be a part of it and to be chosen to be a part of that group.
This is your college. You made it to your pro wrestling college. You could think about it, right?
Oh,
you
yeah.
mentioned classes and everything, and that was it. It took a little while, but you got there. Good for you. All right, Ember, social media, do you have anything out there for fans?
Oh yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, which is WWE Ember Moon, Instagram, which is WWE_Ember Moon, and Snapchat, which is WWE Ember Moon as well.
NXT fans know her. Everyone else needs to check out Ember Moon. Thank you.
Thank you.